Alright, Brush Monkeys, welcome back to another edition of Fallen Monkey Studios. Today we are going to be looking at these Reaper Bones figures, and I'm going to show how I do the Zenithal priming that I do on these. For these I will be using the Badger Stynal Res primers. These are fantastic primers for the airbrush. They come in this 4-ounce bottle. I have white, gray, and black. I have put them all in little dropper bottles, as you can see here. Hopefully you can see here if I can get them on camera. And they're just the best primers I've come across. They're better even than a lot of the bottle can primers that you can get from Games Workshop and Army Painter. Of course, I use Badger airbrushes, so that is big help with that. In this case, I'm using a Badger Patriot Aero. This is like my workhorse airbrush. You can see it's got a lot of wear and tear on it. I've had it for a while. I also have a Badger Sotar 2020. That's my other go-to airbrush. But enough to do. I'm going to go ahead and fire up the compressor and plug this in, and we'll get started. All right? Hopefully that won't be too loud on the video. And I'm going to do all of these together, but I'll just do the first one to show you how it's done, and then I'll stop the video and go in and do the others. Just put a little bit of paint in that cup there, and then spray the whole thing. Spray the whole guy black. The great thing about the Stynal Res is it's kind of a latex primer, so as it dries, it'll shrink up a little bit, and it'll conform to all those little cracks and crevices and details in the figure. That's the good news. The bad news is the miniatures I'm using are Reaper Bones figures, and they are not probably the best figures to show a lot of detail on. But they are very, very inexpensive figures. They're kind of akin to what miniatures were back in the late 70s, early 80s, when Grenadier and Raoul Partha and companies like that produced a lot of miniatures, and they were $3 or $4 each, as opposed to if you buy a character model nowadays, it's almost $30. Sometimes I need a little more. The Badger Patriot is a fantastic airbrush. It chews through paint awfully damn quick, though. You will run out of stuff awfully quick. But there we go. We just hose each one of these guys down. And what we're going to do, I'll tell you ahead of time what the goal here is. We're going to start out painting them all over in black. Okay, that will create the shadows. And we'll want to make sure that they're completely covered in black. And then what we'll do is we'll come back with the gray and hit them from about a 45-degree angle with the gray, and when that dries, we'll come back and hit them straight down from on top with the white. And what that'll do is that'll create the highlights and shadows that we need. We'll keep having to put more. Zenithal highlighting is a fantastic technique, especially if you thin your paints, because it allows those highlights and shadows to be created by the primer itself, and so it doesn't take quite as much work to do highlights and shadows with the paint. In some cases, and this is an experiment I recently tried, is you can paint the figure entirely with inks and get that same effect. The highlights and shadows will already be on there because of the Zenithal highlighting. And so the inks just kind of flow into the cracks and crevices and do what they're supposed to do, while still allowing the Zenithal highlighting to do its job. There we go. Thought I was having some airflow problems there for a minute. There we go. Maybe I was. Now the great thing about the Badger Stynylrez primers is when you go to do the gray ones, the gray and the white, they will dry awfully quickly. So you spray it on all of them, and then you come back, and the first one you sprayed is completely dry. That is unfortunately not the case with the black for some reason. I don't know what it is, but here's the first one we primered in the black, and as you can see, it is still awfully wet. So I'm going to need to pause this and come back, and I'll come back in about an hour or so when that black is dry, and we'll do the gray and the white. So I will see you in a little bit then. Alright, so we're back, and as you can see, all the figures are primed black, and because of that, it's a little easier to see what each one of them is, and the camera doesn't wash them out as much as it did. Now that they're all black, we're going to move on to the gray, and start that up. Let me start the compressor there. And again, we're still using the Stynylrez primer, just this time we're using gray Stynylrez primer. And this is not going to be done the same way as the previous step. This one is going to be done a little bit differently. We're not looking for an all-over coverage with this. We're just looking to get, ideally, if I've got the figure like this, okay, what I'm looking to do is come down at an angle like this at the figure, about a 45-degree angle all the way around the guy, and depending on how light you want the figure or what your color scheme is going to look like later, you might want to do all over, but at about a 45-degree angle, so that when you look up at it from the bottom, it'll still be black, but looking at it straight on will be gray. So let me get these guys out of the way, and I will do that with each one of these guys in turn, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. Okay. Just like that. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, now as you can see, from the bottom, you can see he's still pretty dark. Still got all those blacks in there. But mid-tone, he's gray, and that makes a lot of the detail pop out. Okay? That's what we're going to be doing with all these guys. So about a 45-degree angle. Get him out of the way. Getting some tip dry in there. There we go. Definitely getting some tip dry up in there. Okay, sometimes you get a little bit of tip dry in there. It becomes necessary to add a few drops of drying retarder. Not a whole lot. Again, because I'm using Badger paints, I'm using the Minotaur drying retarder. Put a couple of drops of that in there, and then take an old brush and just stir it up. I'm right-handed, so it's a little easier for me to stir it right-handed. The drying retarder kind of helps because, like I said, the gray and the white dry a lot faster than the black does. So sometimes you end up with a little problem with tip dry, where it's there we go. That's a little better. Okay, and you can see I can make out the details in that Dwarf Ranger quite a bit better than you could before. But again, from the bottom, it looks black. Okay, and then when you go mid-tone, you get the grays. Now, when we go to do the white is going to be kind of the same situation, but it's going to be we're going to be going from straight down on top. Bear with me a moment here. We're going to be going straight down on top with the white, and that's going to create the highlights and shadows. Okay. Now we're just pouring the rest of that leftover gray into there, and put the cap back on. Now, again, because it needs a little bit of time to dry in between rounds, and I need to clean out the airbrush, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video again. Excuse me. And we'll come back to this in just a moment. Thank you. Alright, so the airbrush is clean, and looks like the gray is mostly dry on these. So again, what we're going to do, since we just came down at a 45-degree angle on these guys, come on, angle, let me get this on camera, angle about like that, coming in on this figure. What we're hoping to do, then, we got, if you look at it straight up from the bottom, you get blacks, okay? That's all your shadows and your recesses and what have you. Coming in at this angle, with the gray, gives you your mid-tones all the way around. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come in straight on top up here with from like that point of view with the white, and that's going to create your natural highlights, and it's going to cover everything that should be, everything you can see in that shot right there is going to be white, and that's going to create your highlights. And again, we're going to start out with a couple of drops of the drying retarder because the white does dry really fast. So we'll put that in there. And then give the white a good shake. The white looks really chalky sometimes. Again, it's a really good airbrush primer, but it can be chalky and it can dry up really fast. And so, you know, as with anything else, there's going to be issues with it. It's not a huge thing. It's just learning those issues and knowing how to work with them, and figuring out how to get around them. In this case, we use the drying retarder. to keep it from drying out too fast. Alright, so again, straight down on top. With the chalkiness, what I like to do is start the stream off the figure and then kind of move it onto the figure and kind of go in circles like this. Circle, 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 circle. And wow, that really looks like ass. Let's put in a little more paint. That did not come out the way. Normally I just do straight white on them. I'm normally only working on one figure at a time, so I don't use the drying retarder because I'm not working on a whole line of them like I am now. And so I was a little unexpected with how much the drying retarder thinned that down. That was not something I anticipated and didn't like it. So let's try this again. See, that kind of crap right there is why I do that. There we go. And you can kind of turn it around a little bit. That looks a little better. If you don't feel like painting all over your workbench, the other thing you could do is kind of, and it's the reason why I wear surgical gloves on my painting hand, because as you can see I get paint all over it. Just go ahead and shoot it onto your hand first and then move it over to your figure. Sometimes it can be helpful to kind of hit it almost, like not quite a 45-degree angle, but a little bit more of an angle than your, kind of turn it a little bit so it gets onto a little bit more of the figure. See, I'm getting a lot of splatter on my hand and that nonsense. Dwarf Ranger is going to have a lot of highlights. Alright, so now you can kind of see what I was going for with this on some of these. Like especially this one is a really good example of the elf archer because she's got her head leaned back. Her head's going to be mostly in light. She's got a lot of light on. So I want to get that top of that cloak. And sometimes you can always go back and redo this again. So now you got the folds of the cloak showing up in there. You got all this on the top. Looks really good. The halfling, again, you've got really good deep shadows in the bottom. You got your mid-tones, and then you got your highlights. And with that is your Zenithal priming. That's really all it takes. When you go to paint these figures, especially if you thin your paints like everybody keeps telling you should. Hey everybody, Tom from Flying Monkey Studios here. Thanks for watching my videos. If you like what you saw, hit the like button. If you want to be notified when new videos come out, click subscribe. And in the meantime, if you want to support me in any way, check out my Patreon site, Facebook page, and Instagram page. And comment below on what you want to see on future videos. Thanks a lot. See you later.